Hey guys, this is Joel from the Castle Pokemon Gym. It feels so nice to have a breather and to be able to get back into my catalog of decks again. This week I'm doing one that I should have done before now, and that is Tinkaton EX. The reason I lament not doing it sooner is that Tinkaton is a very popular character at anime and Comic-Cons, which is basically where we live these days. I see lots of cosplays, and as far as the card goes, I am asked if I have anything with Tinkaton more often at this point than Mimikyu, which is definitely saying something. Thankfully, Pokemon Japan did provide a solid entry into the trading card game, actually two of them for Tinkaton. And after playing it online and winning a lot, I find myself asking, why isn't this card making appearances in the format? And if the answer to that is because it's a stage 2, then Charizard, Gardevoir, Dragapult, Pidgeot all say hello. Maybe it's been the draw engines, who knows. All I know is that Tinkaton is a cool character and a good deck, and is very popular among the fan base. So let's look at the card. Tinkaton EX is a stage 2, 300 HP Psychic type, which took over for the briefly represented Fairy types, because Tinkaton in the video game is a Fairy and Steel type. Tinkaton has 2 attacks with no abilities, and has a Steel weakness, which is kind of weird since Tinkaton is also a Steel type, and a 2 energy retreat cost. Back to the attacks, Big Hammer, for 2 colorless energies, does 30 damage for each card in your hand, which is crazy good. So basically 12 cards gets you a 1 hit on anything not wearing some sort of HP boosting tool in the format. And it is not hard at all to hit some of the big basic EX and Vs that hover around 200 HP. And Tinkaton EX also has Pulverizing Press, which for an additional Psychic Energy does 140 damage and hits through any effects, which is a very solid attack, but it does not get used in this build. I don't play anything but the special energies. We'll get to that in a minute, but that is also something that can be very easily remedied. Tinkaton is not complicated, so let's get straight into the list. And if you keep up with my weekly releases, you'll probably see what brought me back to this list. Last week I profiled Palafin EX, which revolves around the use of the Dunsparce. And as you can see, so does this deck. But let's talk general strategy first. There are 2 stages of playing this deck, and they do need to be separated in your mind. First, you have to get set up, meaning making choices to get multiple Tinkaton and have Dunsparce in play. Basically, you need a car before you can go for a drive, that kind of mentality. Then in the second stage, you just have to accrue cards, and you want to approach this step with just simple mathematics. Ask yourself, is each decision a net positive in cards, and more importantly, when do I have enough in my hand? When I say net positive, you don't want to discard a bunch of things just to end up with a few cards in your hand or overplay what you have until you identify how much damage you need to do. And that's really where your turn should start. Get that damage number in your head and then see if you can hit it. And then when you do, stop. Yes, it is great fun to hit somebody for 450 damage just to show that you can. But if that's followed by an unfair stamp or an Iono and you're stuck with 2 cards in your hand and nothing else set up, and you may lose the rest of that game by just a simple unenforced error. I think this list mitigates most of that. The regular Tinkaton, the Mortys, the Ultra Ball, and the Secret Box are the only cards that have discarding effects. The Dunsparce and the regular Tinkaton are your main draw cards here. 2 runaway draws get you 6. Tinkaton gets you 2. I know it says 3, but you have to discard a card to draw 3. So remember to think in terms of the net cards in your hand. So just those 2 actions, along with the card that you draw at the beginning of your turn, it gets you 9 cards, or 270 damage. And you can still play supporters or do some other actions from there to increase that. Looking at some of the supporters, Nemona will get you 2 more, because you draw 3, but you discard the Nemona. Same goes for Miriam and even Arizu, as they both can get 3 cards in your hand, but you lose the card you just played. Morty's Conviction will get you up to 5 in your hand, if your opponent has a full bench. But you have to discard a card, and then you play the Morty, so you discard it as well, so you only net 3. So I think as you mess around with this deck, you'll start to see that a little easier. Just try to think in those terms, because it'll help you make better decisions. For instance, do you want to play a bunch of cards, and then just miss a Charizard or a Dragapult by 20 or 30 damage? Or if you know you can't hit that number, just hit it for half damage and then finish it off later. That kind of vision is why I say chess players make better Pokemon players, because thinking ahead makes you better at this game. And I've said that to every parent that's ever brought a kid to our league wanting to get into the competitive side of the game. But back to Morty's, this card is one to keep your eye on as the Stellar set gets here later this year, because you'll have a stadium that will allow you an 8 Pokemon bench, but for now he only nets 3 cards. You can see I play 4 Nemona and a copy of her backpack. And this is a little trick that I've learned. If possible, discard Nemona when you need to toss something for one of the other effects, then get them back with the backpack. Right now I've only got 1 in here, but I think a second copy seems like a pretty good idea. For this last little bit, I want to talk about 2 cards. That's the Radiant and the A-Spec. My original plan was to just promote the Radiant Jirachi early, get knocked out, and then use its ability to get anything you need to finish setting up. From there, you can use Counter Catcher and just blow up something important if it's not already active. But the problem being, often people catch around the Jirachi for several turns, and eventually they have to knock it out, but I was relying on that way too much. This is why in one of the videos you'll see Neo Upper Energy as the A-Spec, and that was in my original build. I replaced that for the secret box because the box will let you get that one missing piece, whether it's a candy or an Ultra Ball or whatever. I don't like having to discard 3 cards to use secret box, but the trade-off down the line seems to be worth it. And if you get set without it, then just discard it, but it's a nice insurance policy to have. I know the Luxray stands out, but he is great when you fall behind. And you just drop him, you attach a Reversal Energy, Counter Catch Up, a Squawk ability, a Lumineon V, or a Rotom V, then you're right back in the game. I started using him a while back in a Torterra deck, and I've liked this Luxray card ever since then. And the last thing to point out, which may be obvious but is worth saying, is to use Artisan to get Dunsparce back out after a runaway draw, as it lets you hold on to the other items like Poffin or Nest Ball. That's it for now. This one does take a little bit more coaching than some decks, but I think we've talked about it enough. Let's watch it in action. This first match is going to be against a just standard Charizard EX deck. They went first, got pretty average start, same with me. I did get my Radiant Jirachi active, so I'm going to pretty much just get my basics down, play Nemona, and then in my turn, kind of interesting, went back to them. They had a rare candy to go to Pidgeot, and then I think they prized the rest of their rare candies because they hovered there for quite a while and ended up on a Charmeleon. So I don't see that very often. Back to my turn, get another Tinkaton. I'm going to go ahead and rare candy there. Then we'll go to the Dunsparce, and we're going to Runaway Draw. Get the Artisan, which is nice. I can bump that Stadium. I'm going to do that. Get that Tinkatink down. I said Tinkaton earlier. Then Nest Ball, we're going to go ahead and get another Dunsparce down. You can see I play the 70 HP one here. The free retreat is not as important. I do that just because of Dragapult. I have Rare Candy and N because I really want them to knock out that Radiant Jirachi. Again, kind of rely on that maybe a little bit too much. They do get to a Charizard, do a bunch of other Charizard things, and then knock that Jirachi out. I'm going to take it to Dunsparce, regular Tinkaton, and Rare Candy. That's going to help me get a whole lot more set up on my side. Now you can see I've already got a lot of cards in my hand. So we're going to Rare Candy to the regular Tinkaton, give me a little bit extra draw power. I'm going to evolve to the Dunsparce, play Nemona, get 3 more. Just checking to see how much I can do. Go ahead and use the Gather Materials from Tinkaton and get 3 more. We'll Runaway Draw. Check my damage now. I'm at a 400 that I can do, so I've got a few cards I can play. I'm going to evolve to Tinkatuff. Then I'm going to go ahead and attach the double turbo. Double checking my damage, I'm down to 340 now. I need to stop there. So I'm going to Big Hammer for 340 and one-shot the Charizard EX. And off our first 2 prizes, we get a Tinkatink and a Dunsparce. They do more Charizard things than they also play a Kieran, which gives them a 30 damage boost. Almost one-shots me, gets them to 270. So on my turn, I draw a Reversal Energy. I'm going to go and evolve to my second Tinkaton. I'm going to attach that Reversal to the regular Tinkaton, and now I'm going to play Morty's Conviction, toss that Artisan, and draw 5. Get down to Tinkatink. can see I can hit at 400, so we're going to go ahead and big hammer. One shot the second Charizard. Take 2 more prizes off of this one. We get Counter Catcher and Nest Ball. They do a lot more Charizard things, promote a Radiant Charizard. Defiance Band doesn't really matter. They attach that. Then they unfair stamp me. This sometimes can be a problem. In my 2, I get a Roxanne, so that's pretty good. They'll finish me off with that Radiant Charizard. Back to my turn. I'm going to play this Poffin and just whiff it. And go ahead and bench the Mimikyu. And then I'm going to play that Roxanne. That'll give me 6 cards. All I have to do is take out this Radiant Charizard, so I'm just going to play for that. I'm going to toss the regular Tinkaton, get 3. Evolve to Dunsparce. Because I do have a pretty good lead here. I'm going to take a prize. They still have 3 to go, so I can afford to just take this one prize. As long as I have another Tinkaton ready to go. Because they get another Charizard, they will be able to one-shot me because of the prizes I've taken. So we're going to go ahead and get there now. I'm going to Ultra Ball. Probably should have just Ultra Balled away those Nemonas and got it back with the backpack, but wasn't really thinking that one through. Get my Tinkaton and Rare Candy. So I've got 2 in play. Can attach Energy and still be able to hit 160. I'm going to use Artisan and get a Dunsparce. I think I'm still at 190, so we're going to Nest Ball and get that second Dunsparce down. And double check there, that is 160 exactly. So we'll do that, take out the Radiant Charizard, take 1 more prize, just have 1 to go. Another Reversal Energy. They get to another Charizard on their turn, and like I said, with my prize count, they're hitting me for 330, so they're one-shotting me at this point. Back to me, I just promote my other Tinkaton. All I've got to do is just get enough cards in hand. I'm going to use a Rizu, get 2 to Dunsparce. And I think both of these will actually get me there. I'm going to evolve both of those, then we're going to run away, draw off the first, and draw 3. Run away, draw off the second. We don't want to play anything else down, but I think this gets me over 3, yeah, to 370. So we're just going to big hammer, one-shot the third Charizard for 370. And that's the game. That's the beauty of this deck, is that even with having to take a single prize card with the Radiant Charizard, I was able to still one-shot 3 other Charizard EXs, and there are not too many other decks that can do that. Try to keep these videos around 15 minutes. I'm just going to go through some highlights of dismantling a Dragapult deck, which is pretty much every time you play one of these. It's just a very long process, unfortunately. Like I said, I hit the first one for over 400. This is where I kind of learned about Nemona and how to use it with the secret box. I started to throw away some other things, just throw those away because I have the backpack in hand. If not, I could actually get the backpack with the secret box. Use that on this turn to just get a Lysander, or a Boss's Orders, and an item that I really didn't need. Use it to grab up a Rotom and hit for over 4, or for exactly 400 this time. Jump pretty far out in this one to where it's pretty comfortable for the rest of the game. Coming onto this turn, I could not get to enough to one-hit the Dragapult, so I went ahead and played more setup for the next turn and just did a 160. Like I said, if you can't get all the way there, just do enough to get halfway there. I did that. Next turn came back, got a Dunsparce. Don't think I even need to use Runaway Draw there, but I did. That gets me up to 250 damage to finish the 2-hit on the Dragapult and finish that game pretty easily. Like I said, that's just about every Dragapult match. Just unfortunately, most of them take like 30 minutes to get there, so it's kind of hard to show a whole one of those. It would take up the entire video plus some. I don't think Radiant Jirachi makes or breaks this deck, but it is a very nice inclusion at the moment. As in the early turns, your opponent has to devote supporters to their setup, and if they want to play a prime catcher to get around it, they're likely just going to be looking at it again on the next turn. More often than not, they're just going to have to knock him out. I don't know if these highlights hit all the scenarios, but it should have hit on the key ones. Tinkaton's 300 HP isn't the best, but it is just enough to stay out of range of many decks, and it is the only 300 HP plus EX that I can think of that can make the 330 or 340 HP one-hits from the very start of the game. You have to take 4 prizes against Charizard before he can, without the aid of some other things. There are tons of ways, pun intended, to replace the supporter lines to Scarlet and Violet on whenever the rotation happens, which I don't think will be anytime soon. I think if anything, the deck will only get better with future sets. Hopefully something will come along to replace double turbo energy, but we'll just have to wait and see. So that's the deck. I hope you enjoyed this one. Tinkaton fans, build this one and get it out there. Represent for the little dude with the giant hammer. Thank you all for watching. Support the channel any way you're willing. Until next time, be not afraid. Later.